120 anos se passaram desde a primeira edição dos Jogos Olímpicos de Verão, ocorridos em 1896 em Atenas, na Grécia. De lá para cá, 22 países já foram sede das 31 edições do evento. Para falar um pouco mais a respeito da organização dos Jogos e seus valores transmitidos, conversamos com o professor da Universidade do Peloponeso, Konstantinos Georgiadis. Reitor da Academia Olímpica Internacional desde 1992, ele foi um dos 17 membros do Comitê de Organização dos Jogos Olímpicos de Atenas em 2004 e, desde 2000, é membro da Comissão pela Cultura e Educação Olímpica do Comitê Olímpico Internacional. To start, I would like to thank you for being here for this interview. So, my first question is, what are the most important Olympic values and how a country that hosts the Olympic Games can spread these values?
Yeah, thank you also for the invitation. To answer this question, I have to explain first that the Olympic movement, the International Olympic movement, is an educational, and social and peace movement. So for me, one of the most important values of this movement is that try to educate the people to live peaceful. That is a process, and this process we can fulfill this aim through Olympic truths, and for that reason in the last years is created the International Truth Foundation. Another very important value of the Olympic movement is to develop balance between mind and body, not just to exercise the body, but it's very important also for someone who is in sport to train and exercise his mind, being in balance between these 2 points. Of course, in the last years we have, in the Olympic movement, we focus more in 3 other values. There are mentioned 3 other values, which is respect, friendship and excellence. But there are much more values which we can promote through the Olympic movement and especially through the Olympic Games.
And what are the main challenges that involve Olympic education?
I think for me, first of all, we have to develop a new science, which I call that Olympic pedagogy, which has to deal with the philosophy of Olympic education, the aims of the Olympic education, with the content, with the implementation and the evaluation of the Olympic education. And the main challenge of this process is to create better human beings. So to approach in some way values, Olympic values, children, they have to know, to learn values, to experience them, and if possible also to implement them in their life. That means we have in some way to change attitudes of the children. But to do that is try in our educational process to form, to build the virtues, which is a very difficult process, and that is, for that reason, we need to have well-educated teachers who really understand deeply this Olympic philosophy.
Great. And how was your experience as a member of the Athens 2004 organizing committee?
My experience was wonderful because I learned a lot about the organization of the Olympic Games. There are thousands, I think 28,000 decisions that have to take the organizing committee to organize the Olympic Games, but in the same time, being in such a mega event, huge event, I could see the everyday development to organize the games and of course to feel all this the situation and to feel with all people that we will be ready finally to have good Olympic Games. to live with the agony to finally to organize in a good way the Olympic Games, which we have done finally with success at the end.
And what were the main positive and negative aspects of these Athens Games?
The Athens Olympic Games, which we cannot of course compare to the other games because each city is different. The London Olympic Games, they were different, the Beijing Olympic Games, they were different, and Athens Olympic Games were also different as the Sydney Olympic Games. Each city, each different city has its own needs, it's different. So I think the benefits of Athens, they were really a lot. For example, the sewage system, they changed that totally, which it means after some years of the Olympic Games, the area of the sea was cleaned, and the city opens to the sea. So different turtles, animals, birds, they came back to this area after years, and the infrastructure of this area changed. But also the infrastructure inside of the city and around the city changed. We had a new airport, new roads, new train, and a new metro, which made the quality of life much better in Athens. In the last years, we have increased about 20 more million tourists, which it means we have that because the infrastructure changed and we are ready to receive them and to have a better service to them, and the number is increasing. But we had also a lot of social benefits. The students' dormitories and some other areas changed in the health area and also in education. There are measurable and not measurable benefits, and one of the not measurable is the education. So just only in the area of Athens they were educated for the environmental education, 100,000 young people who now contribute in this area to have a better environment. Negative benefits, there are some of the facilities. We try in Athens to have permanent facilities, which we needed, but some of the facilities after the games, we call them wise elephants. There are two facilities which were not used, the canoe kayak and softball facility, but this area now is sold to the private people and is going to be developed. I would say as a result, in the games, really they helped Athens to be, again, after many years, an attractive city with better quality of life for the citizens.
And what the Olympic Games in Athens can teach Brazil that receives the actual games?
I would say that immediately after the games, the government should, with the organizing committee, should think about the legacy of the games, and they have to work together. Politicians with those who were involved in sport, in the Olympic movement, to improve the infrastructure in the future, and all the other benefits, the social benefits, educational benefits that the Olympic Games will leave to this city, and use also the human resources, because there are thousands of young people who are educated, and the country or the federal government have to use these people who are well educated and ready to contribute to the develop the city and the country. They should be in sustainable development.
And what does the 1896 Olympic Games mean? They were the first Olympic Games in history?
Yes.
So, what's the difference between them and the Olympics we have now?
There was a lot of romantic feeling at that time to organize these first games. First of all, at that time Greece faced also economical problems, but They organized the excellent games, a new stadium, the Panathinaik Stadium, which is marble and is part of the legacy of 1896 Olympic Games until today. They was built in Velodrome. That was the first time that the international family came together, the different nations. At that time in Europe we had really political problems and nationalism between the countries, and Greece, a country which was created, newly created, some decades before, was in position to organize the first international festival or games in the world with success, with 14 countries, 255 athletes from all over the world. And these games, they created the basis for the future of the international Olympic movement. So even if the plan was to organize something simply, they found sponsors because the stadium was created by George Averov, who was a Greek man who spent the whole money for the creation of the stadium, and many other Greeks who lived abroad to finance the first Olympic games. Even I said if they was planned to organize something simply, finally they were really excellent games with 60,000 spectators in the ceremonies and every day in the Panathinaik Stadium, the first Olympic stadium.
What's the International Olympic Academy?
So the International Olympic Academy is an educational center and is created in 1961. Since then, they organize international seminars for students from all over the world. We have the young participant session for students 20 to 34 years old, and usually we have about 100 different countries who participate in the session. The National Olympic Committees from different countries, they select the students, and the International Olympic Committee is paid for the ticket and everything is free to participate in the session. We have also in the International Olympic Academy, we are working with universities, the postgraduate seminar. There are students especially who are in physical education or in history, they come in the academy. The university pay for the ticket and accommodation is free. The program is 1 month long, and we have four parts of the program. One is devoted to the ancient Olympic Games, modern Olympic Games, sociological and political problems related to the Olympic Games, Olympic education, and ethics in sport and Olympism, the last part. Another program which we have in the last years is the International Masters program. It's running 7 years now. We had in the last 6 years 79 different countries who participated in the program, and every year we received about 30 students, selected students, who apply for the master's program. The teachers, they come from different universities around the world. They have to pay 3,000 euros fees, the students, but accommodation, food, and everything there is covered by the program. It's in English, 2 semesters in Greece, first and second semester, but each semester is just only in intensive ways in 9 weeks, and then the students, they have to go back to their countries to write. It's a very attractive program, and I hope we can also welcome here for Porto Alegre students, because we had from other parts of Brazil already some of the students. It's an open forum to educate people in Olympism and to spread the ideas of Baron Pierre de Coubertin around the world.
Maybe I can ask you about the Commission for Culture and Olympic Education. It's what's that about? Like, what do they do?
This commission has a long story behind. It's created first as commission of the International Olympic Academy and for Olympic education. That was part of the Cultural Commission, and the last years focused more on Olympic education because the Olympic education now as a concept, educational concept is very important as values-based education worldwide. So the Commission is responsible for the strategic plan how to spread these ideas around the world. What is the main purpose of to have such a commission, and how we can spread worldwide with which stakeholders or institutions have we to work together really to reach our aims, the aims which we put every year.
And what are your expectations for the Rio de Janeiro Olympics now?
I believe that there will be wonderful Olympic Games. They will be unique because of they are the first time that games there are in South America, and because of the culture of Brazil and the feeling here to organize mega events. I think there will be a very good Olympic Games and good organized Olympic Games, even if now we can hear there are some problems, but all the organizing committees, they used to have before the Olympic Games starts problems. Thank you for the invitation.